අයිබෝවන් මං තමයි ඔයගලන්ට ජීව විද්‍යාව උගන්වන මිස්. මගේ නම ආරෝෂා. මම කැමති ඔයගලම අඳුන ගන්න. මේ කොනෙන් පටන් ගමු.
මම කෙවින් අල්මේදා.
මම දෙම්බුගුට්ටු ඉතිහාසයේ ආරච්චිලාගේ දොන් සමන් නයනජිත් අත්තනායක.
මම ක්‍රිෂ්ණෝනිස්.
It is a well-known fact that traditional names of Sri Lankans are significantly longer than most other names. Names which are based on the religion, race and their ancestors' name that can even indicate which part of the country that the person is from. However, modern society does equip with people names that were influenced by Western culture. But how did it change? What caused this change? And where did this transformation of Sri Lankan names begin?
Did you know that you could derive the roots of a family, the profession, and even from which part of Sri Lanka one originates from just reading the name of a person?
Yes, the traditional Sinhalese name consists of three parts: the family name, the personal name, and the surname. The family names normally ends with a GE, and it reveals the origins and the profession of a person.
However, modern society tends to use more westernized names, though traditional names do prevail. But how were Sri Lankan names influenced by Western culture?
For this, let's dig into the history books of Sri Lanka.
At the south tip of India lays the pearl of the Indian Ocean, Sri Lanka. The history of Sri Lanka extends over 2,500 years. A beautiful island situated in an advantageously strategic position in the Indian Ocean. Sri Lanka is a rich land in natural beauty, history, culture and resources, augmented by a wonderful, resilient and vibrant and hospitable people. Throughout the history of Sri Lanka, it was ruled by many kings and queens. The invasion of Europeans started with Portuguese in 1505, but they only managed to capture the coastal regions of the country. Later on, the captured area was taken over by the Dutch, but the Dutch ruling part of the country was formally ceded to Britain, who carried out to capture the entire country and to imprison the king. The line of the kings was broken. A new era has just begun. The Portuguese, led by their military commander Lourenço de Almeida, arrived in Sri Lanka in 1505. By taking advantages of the political imbalance in Sri Lanka, they extended their control over the coastal areas. This is also the same time where Christianity touches down on the island.
The Portuguese era marked the end of medieval Sri Lanka and the beginning of modern Sri Lanka. Many lowland Sinhalese were forced to convert to Christianity. Some of them believed that interacting with Portuguese people, becoming a follower of Christianity and changing their names and lifestyle would give them a higher state in the society. The Portuguese sailors married local Sinhalese women since there were no women in the Portuguese navy. Many people having a Portuguese name were a result of forced conversion of local people in order to work for the Portuguese. Pereira, De Silva, Fernando, Rodrigo, Mendes, Fonseca, Dimel de Costa are some of the Portuguese names still widely used as surname of many Sri Lankans.
King Rajasingha II made an ambitious approach to eliminate the Portuguese from the coastal regions of Sri Lanka in the year 1638. He made agreements with the now strong powers of Dutch to defeat the Portuguese and eliminate them from the country, in return to which the Dutch were afforded land for trade. This turned out to be a deception. The Dutch did expel the Portuguese, but it also brought more severe damages to the country as they took control over the coastal regions.
The Dutch were invited by King Rajasingha II to dismiss the Portuguese, they came with a different idea in mind. While controlling natural harbours, Gaul and Trincomalee, in order to improve their power among the East, they were also keen in spreading their religion and culture.
Well, the Dutch influence on Sri Lankan names lasted from 18th to 20th century. Singles males were called by names such as Philips, Hendrik, Cornelia and Jacobus. Females had names like Apollonia, Cornelia, Johanna and Henrietta. But these names seldom exist in the modern day society.
Then, the British invasion began.
The transfer of Dutch power to British power in Sri Lanka was due to a peace treaty of 1801 between the Dutch and British, in which it was agreed that the British would take control of the Dutch territories. This gave British the more control over the South Asian region. Then after numerous attempts, British took over the entire island in 1815 and went on to rule the country for 133 years. Even though the purpose of British was somewhat similar to Portuguese and Dutch, they had rather a different approach to establish their power on the island.
The British used local informants and British surveyors to map the island. They then built a network of roads to open the central region. This made it easier to export production of plantation agriculture and gave them a tighter military control. The British also brought in 1 million Tamils from India to work for tea estates, while inducing a religious imbalance and disunity. Priests who came along from the West preached Christianity, and this produced many conversions in Sri Lanka.
The British rule was relatively benign and progressive compared to that of the Dutch and the Portuguese. They were determined to Anglicize the island. It was not the Dutch or the Portuguese. It was really the British who introduced the democracy, an exotic lifestyle, a modern education and commercial agricultural system. At that time of the era, many Sri Lankan people wanted to have high status in the country, but in order to do that, they had to change their religion into Christianity. In doing that, they also had to do something else, which is they had to change their names into British. Some people changed their first names only, such as Albert, Chelsea, Christine, Devon, Hudley. Some even changed their surnames, names such as Gregory, Dias, Watmore, Hayes. And these names are still being used in Sri Lanka today.
So the Portuguese were the first to influence a change in the names of Sri Lanka,
Which were then followed by the Dutch and the British.
The influence was so strong that even today, many people still use Western names along with traditional names. Sri Lanka has thus become a blend of traditional and Western culture.
To add to this, the development on technology and enlightenment has also had its effects on Sri Lanka. While striving to catch up with the advancements, modern generation embrace Western culture and therefore adopt modern Western names.
The world is globalizing, and so are the people of Sri Lanka, which makes their names more and more Western.
Mama Chris Norris. Mama Chris Norris. Mama Chris Norris. 18th century, 20th century. Those are Sri Lankan names, lasted from 18 to 10 years ago. 10 years in Sri Lanka.
Dutch influence. Other than you know, the Dutch names influence the Sri Lankan names. Lasted from 18 to 20th century. Lasted from
How long will the Dutch influence last in Sri
Lanka? Good question.
They were determined to Anglicize the island. They introduced Sorry.
Portuguese era marked
The Portuguese, led by the military, which was exactly 486 years before you were born.
Oh. Yes.
486 years before you were born.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.